The guy was insane who I bought it from, and he locked himself out of his own home during the test drive. Here's a crazy story that has spanned my life, my car ownership life. As you remember from our old days, I always loved those Mercedes AMG station wagons. In fact, I always loved high performance station wagons in general. I've had an Audi RS2, which is really special. I had a CTS-V station wagon here in Atlanta, and I've had now 2 Mercedes AMG wagons. Back in the day, back in 2012, the only way to find an AMG wagon for sale, there was a thread on MB World. And people would post when they would pop up on AutoTrader, or sometimes people would just post like, I'm selling mine, I'm thinking about selling mine, whatever. And that was the only way. This was before Bring a Trailer, this was before Cars and Bids, and it was also, 2012 there had only been one generation of the car sold, which was the 211 model that was sold from like 05 to 2010 or 2009. And so these days, the wagons are more common because there have been more made. And these days, you can find them on Bring a Trailer and on Cars and Bids. There's like 3 listed every week. But back then, I swear, there was a thread on MB World, and that was the only way you could find out about these cars. I desperately wanted one. It was like the King station wagon. I really wanted one. I just spent my whole life on that MB World thread. I would reload it. I had search alerts on AutoTrader and on cars.com, and one of them listed for sale in Indianapolis. It was listed as being silver, and that was kind of my dream color, and it had the 3rd row, which the first gen AMG wagons offered, and they stopped, the first US gen. After that, they stopped offering it. And I really wanted the 3rd row because it seemed like a cool idea. The story of going to Indiana to buy the car is actually a pretty good story in itself. The guy was insane who I bought it from, and he locked himself out of his own home during the test drive and had to call his dad to come unlock his house. But I bought that car. It turned out to not be silver. It was pewter, which is sort of Mercedes had previously called it desert silver. It's sort of a heinous gold that really looks bad. So I bought that car. It was an 07 E63 AMG wagon. And what happened was the search alert had been set up, and it emailed me, and 2 seconds after it emailed me, I called the dude. I was like, I want the car, I'll pay full price. And he told me he had already gotten a call from somebody else. He was so insane that he had listed the car for sale, and then he was planning to go to Hawaii for 2 weeks, like the next day. And I'm like, dude, so I had to wait for him. I gave him a deposit, I had to wait for him to get back from Hawaii. Fine. Flew to Indianapolis, bought the car, drove it back to Atlanta where I lived. That car I had for several years in Atlanta, or for a year in Atlanta. And I even took it on a mountain drive that you organized all those years ago, where a Carrera GT was one of the other cars, and Lambos and Ferraris, and I'm driving my stupid AMG wagon, right? But that was my car. It was a pewter 07 E63 wagon. We did the mountain drives. I drove that car around. I even at one point, one of the cool things I did, there was this company that used to organize runway drag races. And one of the ones was up in North Georgia. There was a runway, they organized at some private airstrip, a runway drag race, and I dragged that AMG wagon against a Carrera GT. And one time we even took it to the Atlanta Dragway. One of my favorite memories of all, my friend Andrew Brannon, who you may remember, he sat in the 3rd row. And we would drag against like modded Camaro. You know, this was a 507 horsepower car. It was pretty legit, especially back in 2012. And we would run against like modded 4th gen Camaros, and Andrew would wave to the people as we pulled away while he was sitting in the back with his helmet on. I had that AMG wagon for a year. We had all these fun memories in it. You know, my friend, I used to take, when I worked in an office, we would all go out to lunch in it, and my friends would sit in the back in the 3rd row. So there'd be 7 of us in the car. Like, we did all sorts of fun stuff in this AMG wagon. Eventually, I decided to quit my job to focus on writing about cars and eventually becoming a video person. And I decided I needed to consolidate. I had like 4 or 5 cars, one of which was that AMG wagon. And I basically sold all of my cars to get a CarMax Range Rover, which was going to be my rational vehicle because it had the warranty, and I needed to focus on other stuff than just perpetually accumulating and buying and selling and dealing with cars. So I sold the AMG wagon, and guess how I sold it? Via the thread on the MB World forums. And a guy named Doug Bryan bought it in Dallas, Texas. And Doug he was a fellow Doug, and he was a really nice dude. And this was about the time that I was sort of starting to take off in terms of writing for Jalopnik and that kind of thing. And so not only did he buy the car, but he always kind of kept in touch because my career sort of took off, and he followed me, and he thought it was kind of cool. A few years later, maybe it's 2017, he lists the car for sale on Bring a Trailer. This is before Cars and Bids existed. He would have obviously used Cars and Bids now. But so he lists the car for sale and bring a trailer, and he sent me an email before and he said, hey, I'm selling the car. You know, he had 5 years out of it. It's been cool, you know, our car that we had together. I think, oh, this is cool. You know, the car will find a new owner, whatever. And at the end of the experience, at the end of the sale, he tells me that he has sold the car to Atlanta, which I thought was kind of an interesting coincidence. But that was kind of the last I asked about it because it had been years now, and he moved on to a Panamera and life was over. So I didn't really think much about the E63 wagon again until 2 years ago. I'm in Atlanta, walking down the street, and there it is, sitting just randomly street parked in Inman Park, which is my favorite neighborhood. It's in town in Atlanta. There's the AMG wagon, my old car. And of course, I lose it. I had known the car went back to Atlanta, but I didn't know that. I mean, I owned the car maybe a mile away. And remember, it had gone to Dallas, Texas for 5 years in between. He could have sold it anywhere in the world, and it came all the way back to Atlanta, literally back to the same neighborhood where I lived. That in itself is a crazy coincidence, and the story could end there and be a pretty interesting story, but it doesn't. Now it's 2 years after that. I'm here back in Atlanta, my favorite place. I love it here. I wish I could move back here. And this time I'm staying in Inman Park at an Airbnb. I love this neighborhood. I love in town Atlanta. I think it's so special. We're checking in the house and, you know, drive by that house where the car was, and the car's still there. So the AMG wagon is still sitting on the street, my old car, and I walk by it and it is rough now. It is rough. It has been hit in the back. The taillight is in pieces. The front bumper is hanging off. The little guard for the headlight washer has fallen off. Like, it is rough. Hasn't been cleaned in forever. It is in rough shape. I'm like, wow, that car has had a bit of a fall from grace. But over the last week, as we've been in Atlanta, we've been walking by the car, saying, there's my old car. And I've been telling, you know, the people who came, I saw it. I used to own that car, like a car like that. I'm like, no, I was my car 7 years ago. Although actually now it's 12 years ago that I own that car and it's still around. Here's the craziest part of the story. I'm driving up here today. You live quite far from Inman Park. We are 50 minutes, 55 minutes with traffic today from where I am. I get off at your exit. I'm driving up here 1 mile from your house. I get a stoplight behind that very same car. What the hell are the odds? This metro area has 6.5 million people. We are probably 40 miles from where the car lives, and I see it again. And I took a picture. I freaked out. I don't know who owns it anymore. I don't know the guy's name. I'm sure Doug, the guy who sold it to him, does. But like, I can't. Like, why is this car still in my life? And I couldn't believe it. But it's in some shopping center, like walking distance to here right now. And I guess the current guy is an architect, and he mostly does like the historic properties down in town. And he's just driving it around. I could not believe I see it again so far away from like the city. Like, what are the odds? Why does this car continue in my life?
When you get a ticket, it might look something like this, but the first thing that you need to do is take a picture of that ticket and send it to 305-305. That will get the ticket clinic on your case immediately. They've got brick and mortar offices in Georgia, Florida, and California, but they can help you find a ticket no matter where you get it in the United States by helping you find a local attorney that will do everything they can to help you avoid costly fines, insurance premium increases, points on your license, risk of suspension, even jail time. They've helped me out with this ticket and many others, and a lot of my friends as well. So check them out now at the link in the description below, or again, text your ticket to 305-305 to get the ticket clinic on your case. They are the perfect partner in your fight against any speeding ticket.